Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully you guys are having a great Wednesday. Got lots of NHL news to cover, so make sure that you stay tuned in to this episode until the end. As always, hit the like, subscribe button if you're watching the podcast on YouTube. Make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG podcast, which you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Anyways, it is exam week for me. Trying to close out my sophomore year of college strong, and on a good note, I might put this episode out a little bit later than a normal show time because, like I said, it is exam week. I'm studying for my exams and trying to end the semester strong for my sophomore year of college. So this episode I might put out a little bit later or than the normal show time of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. But just letting you guys know in advance, so probably could come out around 11:45 or noon this time. Only because, like I said, I'm studying for exams, I was studying for exams, getting ready for exam, and trying to end the sophomore year of college strong. So, let you guys know in advance. But anyway, let's get into the NHL news for today. Start things off with Game 1 of the Toronto Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers. The Maple Leafs hold on for a 5-4 win over the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers on Monday. They lead the best-of-7 series 1-0. William Nylander, Willie Styles, he had 2 goals and assists in the game for a 3-point night. Of course, his first goal was 33 seconds into the first period to kick things off. And then Matthew Schaefer and Chris Tanev each had a goal and an assist for a 2-point night. Morgan Riley also scored for Toronto. And Max Pacioretty and Jake McCabe each finished the game with 2 assists. Anthony Stolarz made 8 saves in the win, but he did leave the game midway through the second period after taking an elbow to the head from Panthers forward Sam Bennett. And I think before that we saw like Carter Verhaeghe or one of the Panthers players taking a shot from near the left circle, and it hit Anthony Stolarz's mask. His mask came off. So I think even before the Sam Bennett elbow hit to the head, we saw Carter Verhaeghe or one of the Panthers players taking a shot from near the left circle, and it hit Anthony Stolarz's mask, and his mask came off. And then after the Sam Bennett hit and after the shot to the mask, we saw Anthony Stolarz vomiting on the Leafs bench, and he was taken to the hospital for evaluation. And people were saying, especially if you're a Leafs fan that was watching that game or at the game live in person, you would think that elbow to the head should have been a penalty, which 100% agree it should have been a penalty. It was obviously, I think, a vicious elbow to the head for Sam Bennett, so that should have been called a penalty, but it wasn't, so play resumed. But in the post game, Sam Bennett did apologize to Anthony Stolarz. He also said that he reached out to him, make sure that he was okay. But obviously the fans wanted a penalty. Joseph Wall stepped into this game and he made 17 saves in relief. So I have a feeling after taking that elbow to the head and the shot to the mask for Anthony Stolarz, he will not return for Game 2. At least that's from my perspective. Probably when I release this episode out, we'll have more news and clarification on that because Game 2 of that series is today. It's going to be coming on ESPN as part of a doubleheader. But for the Florida Panthers, Seth Jones, Eetu Luostarinen, Juris Balkanis, I hope I pronounced that name right, and Sam Bennett scored for Florida. Of course, Luostarinen, Balkanis, Bennett's goals were in the third period, which is when the Panthers tried to mount a comeback but unable to finish the job. But I thought they were going to get it done since they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. And also, you didn't see Game 7 between the Blues and Jets. We saw the Jets were down 3-1 in the third period, and they rallied in the third, especially in the final 2 minutes, to tie the game. And then win the game. So I thought it was going to be something like that, but it turns out it wasn't, and the Maple Leafs hold on for the win. Brad Marchand, Carter Verhaeghe each had 2 assists in the game for the Florida Panthers. Of course, Brad Marchand's first 2 points as a Panther against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Sergei Bobrovsky made 10 saves in the win. Not 10 saves, 24 saves. Sergei Bobrovsky made 24 saves in the loss, I should say, not the win. Sergei Bobrovsky made 24 saves in the loss. The game 2 of this best of 7 series is Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Like I said, it will air on ESPN as part of a doubleheader. I don't think Anthony Stolarz will be playing game 2. I'm for sure he won't be playing game 2 after that elbow to the head, but we'll just have to see more clarification and more analysis on his status for game 2. It will probably come as soon as I release this episode out to you guys, which, like I said, will probably be a little bit later because it is exam week for me, and I want to end my sophomore year of college on a high note. But moving on to the Hurricanes and Capitals game 1, as the Hurricanes took game 1 2-1 in overtime, as Jacob Slavin had the overtime game-winning goal for Carolina in the Hurricanes 2-1 overtime win over the Capitals. He scored 3 minutes and 6 seconds into overtime with a shot from the right point through traffic that slipped on the Capitals goalie Logan Thompson, and also there was a screen out in front as well. Thompson unable to read it. Hurricanes take game 1 of this series. Logan Stankoven, he had the game tying goal for the Capitals at the Hurricanes at 9 minutes and 42 seconds of the third period, capitalizing off of a Capitals turnover and tied the game with a shot from the left circle, I believe. And Freddie Anderson made 13 saves in the win for the Hurricanes. This is his first game back since Game 4, and in Game 4 he sustained a undisclosed injury in the Hurricanes 5-2 win against the Devils in Game 4 of the first round series. And for the Capitals, Alexei Protas scored the long goal for Washington. Of course, that goal coming in the second period after a scoreless first period. That is his first career playoff goal. And Logan Thompson made 31 saves in the loss. Overall, I thought the Hurricanes dominated this game. They were in control for the majority of this game. They dominated in shot attempts, shots on goal, and had a lot of puck possession throughout this game. So I thought they really took control of the game. I thought the Capitals were not generating enough scoring chances. Take a look at the Hurricanes side. They had 94 shot attempts, and they had 33 on goal. And the Capitals, they just kept blocking shots with 32 blocked shots in this game. But the Hurricanes outshot the Capitals 33-14. Of course, 12-5 in the first period, 8-6 in the second period, 11-3 in the third period, and then 2-0 in overtime. So it was a tough battle for the Capitals in Game 1. But in the Hurricanes, they also had a great penalty kill for the Capitals. They didn't allow them to get a power play goal. Their penalty kill was first in the league in the regular season, so it didn't come to me by surprise that the Hurricanes were able to kill off the Washington Capitals' power play chances, and they improved to 17 for 17 in the postseason. But Game 2 of this best-of-7 series is Thursday, May the 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPN for you to watch. But moving on to Game 1 of the Edmonton Oilers and the VGK Vegas Golden Knights. So the Edmonton Oilers rally in the third period for a 4-2 comeback win over the Golden Knights on Tuesday. And fun fact, the Oilers became the first team in NHL history to notch 5 consecutive comeback wins in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. This has never been done before, and so the Oilers are the first team to do that. I did have them. You guys will hear me say this a lot throughout the Stanley Cup Playoffs, probably until the Oilers get eliminated. I had the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup before the season started. And if you missed my bold predictions video on the TG Hockey channel 2 weeks ago, I had the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup on my playoff bracket. So to see the Oilers and Golden Knights square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year after having the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup at the start of the season and then the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup on my playoff bracket, I don't know. It'll be intriguing to see, but just don't know how it would go out. It can go, for me, it can go either way since I have both teams winning the Stanley Cup. Oilers bold prediction video, I said that they'll win the Stanley Cup before the season started. And then I changed my mind. I switched to Vegas and have them winning the Stanley Cup. But I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. Anything can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs, as we all know. Stanley Cup playoffs, best time of the year. So after being down 2-0, of course, the Golden Knights had both goals from their captain, Mark Stone. Corey Perry cut the Golden Knights lead to 1 late in the first period, and then obviously a scoreless second period. And so the Edmonton Oilers scored 3 unanswered goals in the third period to get the 4-2 win. Leon Draisaitl tied the game up at 2, just 57 seconds into the period. And then Zach Hyman gave the Oilers the 3-2 lead with 3 minutes and 2 seconds remaining. And then Connor Brown had an insurance goal 76 seconds later to seal the deal and to win 4-2. Connor McDavid and Evan Bouchard each recorded 2 assists, and Calvin Pickard made 15 saves for the Oilers in the win. And for the Golden Knights, like I mentioned already, Mark Stone scored both the goals for Vegas. Power play goal and even strength goal in the game. Of course, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins taking that 4-minute high-sticking penalty. So the Golden Knights won the power play. Mark Stone scored the power play goal for Vegas. And fun fact, both the goals that Mark Stone scored in this game tied the Golden Knights all-time playoff record, or I should say all-time playoff goal record, with his 36th career playoff goal as a Golden Knight. So the Golden Knights had 36 playoff goals in their franchise history. Mark Stone has his 36th career playoff goal as a Golden Knight, which ties the franchise record. And Adin Hill made 24 saves for Vegas in this loss. And it seemed like after the Golden Knights dominated the first period, they only managed 7 shots on goal over the final 2 periods, including just 1 in the second. And Edmonton, through the second and third period, dominated with puck possession, and their offense was just clicking. We barely saw that for Vegas in the second and third period. So they're going to need to get it together in Game 2, as Game 2 will be in Las Vegas Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That game will also air on ESPN for you guys to watch. But now let's talk about the NHL Draft Lottery, as the New York Islanders shocking the hockey world and winning the draft lottery. They were going into the NHL Draft Lottery. The Islanders had the 10th best odds at drafting the number 1 overall pick. They somehow jumped from 10th and jumped to all the way to number 1, and they win the draft lottery. And this is the first time since 2009 that the Islanders will have the number 1 overall pick. If you don't remember, the Islanders drafted John Tavares in 2009, and so this will be the first time since then that they will have the number 1 overall pick. And the 5th time overall in their franchise history that the Islanders will select first overall. Of course, in 1972, they selected Billy Harris. In 1973, they selected Dennis Potvin. In 2000, they selected Rick DiPietro. Hopefully I pronounced that last name right. And in 2009, most recently, they selected John Tavares. San Jose Sharks get the 2nd overall pick. And the Chicago Blackhawks get the 3rd overall pick. Utah Hockey Club jumps from 14th to 4th overall. And the Predators get the 5th overall pick, and so forth. They had a 3.5% chance. The Islanders had a 3.5% chance at getting the 1st overall pick. And they had the 10th best odds. So it still shocks me, and it still shocks the hockey world, that the Islanders get the 1st overall pick. I can understand it. Like I said, I did I did create a reaction video of me reacting to this as I was watching the NHL Draft Lottery. I put that out on my TikTok And on my Instagram page, you can follow at Ty the Hockey Boy on Instagram. And then you can also search for my TikTok video about that, Ty Glenn 678, my TikTok account name. Or you can just type in my name, Ty Glenn, and the video should come up. But fun fact, the Islanders win marks the largest jump. The Islanders winning the draft lottery, I should say, marks the largest jump to the top pick since the New York Rangers moved up in the 2020 NHL draft, and that was when they drafted Alexis Lafreniere. And the 2025 NHL draft lottery was, they kind of switched things up. So we actually got to see how the ping pong balls work and how the NHL draft lottery works instead of, just holding up the cards and then showing the team who gets the first overall pick. We actually got to see how that scenario plays out. So I think it was kind of interesting to see. But what I didn't like was the Blackhawks not drafting the number 1 overall pick, because as a Blackhawks fan, and I'm pretty sure if you're a Blackhawks fan listening or watching this podcast, we wanted Michael Misa on the team. We wanted to see Michael Misa in a Blackhawks sweater come the 2025 NHL draft. There is a chance that the Islanders may select him at first overall in the 2025 NHL draft. He could go at the number 1 or number 2 slot. I know Sharks fans want to draft Michael Schaefer. They want to see the Sharks draft, not Michael Schaefer, Matthew Schaefer, excuse me. I don't know why I said Michael. But Sharks fans want to see Matthew Schaefer on their team. They're going to be eyeing and keen on for Matthew Schaefer. But there is a chance the Islanders could select him. So it's either going to be Michael Misa and Matthew Schaefer. They're going to be at the 1-2. Or there could be a slight chance that the Islanders could select the hometown kid in James Hagens, which, fingers crossed, hopefully that happens, so that the Sharks could select Matthew Schaefer and the Blackhawks could easily select Michael Misa. That's how I want the scenario to play out. But like I said, it could most likely be Michael Misa going to the Islanders. I don't think the Islanders would pass on that. I think they will take that. Take advantage of that, and then the Sharks obviously trying to get Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer is projected to go first overall in the NHL draft, but there are some Sharks fans who do want Matthew Schaefer, so he could go to the Sharks, and then the Islanders could get Michael Misa, or they, like I said, could have a slight chance of drafting the hometown kid in James Hagens, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. But overall thoughts, like I said, this draft was kind of interesting. I didn't like our results. I didn't like the Blackhawks coming down from second best odds at drafting the first overall pick and then slipping to the number 3 position in the NHL draft. But on the other hand, I should be happy and I should not be happy. I should be happy because the Blackhawks have had a strong history at drafting the 3rd overall pick, and there is an article out on Blackhawk Up about that. I will put that article in the description for you guys to read, and then I will have another article for you guys on Blackhawk Up saying that if the Blackhawks don't draft Michael Misa, they can always draft Porter Martone. I'll have my explanations on why they should draft Porter Martone. That article will also be in the description for you guys to read. But anyway, the Blackhawks have had a strong history at drafting the 3rd overall pick, and it certainly paid off for them. Jonathan Tage, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, team captain, Chicago Blackhawks. He was drafted 3rd overall in the 2006 NHL draft. And then you had Dennis Savard, who was drafted 3rd overall in the NHL draft. I can't remember what year it was because obviously he was before my time. But he was also drafted 3rd overall by the Blackhawks. And most recently, Kirby Dach being drafted 3rd overall in the 2019 NHL draft before, obviously being traded to the Montreal Canadiens. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure the Blackhawks will have a good spot at selecting the 3rd overall pick. I'm pretty sure that whoever they select 3rd overall pick, which fingers crossed will be Michael Misa, it'll certainly pay off for them once again. I just wish we had the first overall pick, of course, we drafted Connor Bedard first overall in the 2023 NHL draft, and then Artem Leshnov at second overall in the 2024 NHL draft. And now we're going to be having a third overall pick in the 2025 NHL draft. So, again, we are in a good spot. I should be happy about that. But when I first saw that the Islanders win the draft lottery, I was just shocked and, kind of upset at first. But, now I think about it, I really think the Blackhawks are in a good spot at drafting the third overall pick. So, as a Blackhawks fan, I should be happy. They have had good luck at drafting the third overall pick before. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure this next player that they draft, whether it's Michael Misa, Porter Martone, James Hagens, I'm pretty sure it will pay off. All I know is they don't need to draft Matthew Schaefer. We already have a lot of young depth on D and a lot of young talent on D. Deep prospect pool for defensemen. So they don't need another defenseman. They need a forward who can thrive alongside Connor Bedard. So I'm hoping that'll be Michael Misa, but if not, Porter Martone or maybe James Hagens. Who knows? But let me know you guys' thoughts on the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery. Did you like what happened? I'm pretty sure if you're an Islanders fan, you got to be ecstatic of what happened. But did you like this new scenario of the NHL Draft Lottery or not? I know I spent the last few minutes talking about the Chicago Blackhawks, but that's because I'm a huge fan of them, and I can tell you from a Blackhawks standpoint of how the draft played out for them than me telling from another team standpoint and what they can do. So that's why I spent the last few minutes of this discussion talking about the Chicago Blackhawks and from their standpoint, because I can give a fully in-depth analysis on that than I could with other teams, because like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Chicago Blackhawks. But moving on to the LA Kings and Rob Blake. So the LA Kings and Rob Blake decide to part ways with each other on Monday. No general manager was named. And team president Luc Robitaille is expected to lead the search for a new general manager. Rob Blake did spend 8 seasons with the team. He joined the team's front office in 2013 and became the general manager in 2017. And he's credited with quote-unquote modernizing the team players development program and scouting operations. And under his role as general manager, the Kings made the playoffs 5 times but failed to advance past the first round in each appearance. In fact, they haven't won a playoff series since 2014, and of course in 2014, that was the year that they won the Stanley Cup. Alex Martinez scored the double overtime game-winning goal in the 2014 Stanley Cup Finals, Game 5 against the New York Rangers to win the Stanley Cup. I think that game went past overtime, the first overtime. I think it was in double overtime he scored it, but anyway, 5 times under his role as general manager, Kings have made the playoffs, failed to advance past the first round since. And for the 4th straight year, the LA Kings were eliminated in the first round by the Edmonton Oilers. But despite the playoff struggles for the Kings had a 48-25-9 record in the 2025 season, tying their franchise record for wins with 48 and points with 105. And setting a new record for home wins with 31, which I think they have the best home record in the 2024-25 regular season. I think they have the best home record, though. But take a look at some of Rob Blake's moves as general manager of LA Kings. He drafted key players like Quentin Byfield at 2nd overall in the 2020 NHL draft, and then he drafted Brent Clark at number 8 overall in the 2021 NHL draft, who have become phenomenal pieces for the team's core. And in June of 2023, the LA Kings acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Winnipeg Jets before eventually shipping him over to Washington to play for the Capitals. And then Rob Blake also hired Jim Hiller as the team's head coach for the 2023-24 season after firing Todd McClellan, who's now the Red Wings head coach. But I don't know if we'll see Jim Hiller lead the LA Kings anytime soon following Rob Blake's departure. But Rob Blake also did play for the LA Kings as a player in the NHL. He played 14 seasons with the Kings as a defenseman, and in those 14 seasons, he had 494 points in 805 games played with the Kings. as a defenseman in the NHL. 161 goals, 333 assists for 494 points and 805 games played. Overall, he did play 20 seasons in the NHL with the LA Kings, Colorado Avalanche, and San Jose Sharks, in which he has 777 points and 1,270 games played, 240 goals, 537 assists for 777 points and 1,270 games played. He won the James Norris Trophy with the LA Kings in 1998, and he won Stanley Cup with the Avalanche in 2001. He's also a 7-time NHL All-Star, so he's been around LA for a while, and overall in the NHL, he's inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. But it'll be interesting to see where does Luc Robitaille go from here. Of course, he was also a player for the LA Kings during his time in the NHL. So, LA Kings making moves to their front office. It'll be interesting to see how this will play out in the offseason. But moving on to the Calder Trophy finalists, immaculate celebrating Lane Hudson and Dustin Wolf, as they were all named Calder Trophy finalists on Monday. For those who don't know, the Calder Trophy is awarded to the Rookie of the Year. And taking a look at the Calder Trophy finalists, we'll start off with Macklin Celebrini. He had 63 points in 70 games played this season, 25 goals, 38 assists for 63 points in 70 games played this season. He led the Sharks in scoring, and his 25 goals were second among rookies, and his 63 points were tied for second. And in his NHL debut on October 10, 2024, Macklin Celebrini scored 7 minutes into the first period, which marked the second fastest goal by a number 1 overall pick in their debut, behind Mario Lemieux at about 3 minutes in 1984. And on April 9th of 2025, Macklin Celebrini had a hat trick and 2 assists in a single game, becoming the 6th 18-year-old in NHL history to achieve a 5-point game. But for Lane Hudson, who's just setting records in Montreal, I'm pretty sure he'll win the Calder Trophy when it's all said and done. He led all rookies with 60 assists and 60 points in 82 games, and his 66 points set a new franchise record for points by a rookie defenseman for the Canadiens. And his performance this season has surpassed a lot of expectations. So this kid is going to be something for the Canadiens in the near future, and no doubt in mind he could take home the Calder Trophy this season. But moving on to Dustin Wolf. Dustin Wolf had a 29-16-8 record this season with a 2.64 goals against average and a .910 save percentage and 3 shutouts this season for the Calgary Flames. Of course, the Flames coming up short of making these Stanley Cup playoffs. And if Dustin Wolf wins the Calder Trophy, he will be the first goaltender to receive the Calder Trophy since Steve Mason did so in 2009. So that'll be interesting to see how that will play out. But like I said, my prediction, it's got to be Lane Hudson. At first, it was Matvei Michikov, but obviously Matvei Michikov is now on this list, surprisingly. So I have to give it to Lane Hudson. He's done a phenomenal job for Montreal this season. I did like Macklin Celebrini's results with the Sharks, but I think Lane Hudson, he's got to get this award. I mean, he has to win this award. So it's got to be Lane Hudson to take the Calder Trophy. So yeah, that's my prediction right there. Let me know, you guys' stars, who do you think will win the Calder Trophy this season? But moving on to the Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate for today. There's only 2 Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate, both of them being on ESPN for a doubleheader. We got Game 2 of the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Maple Leafs lead this best-of-7 series 1-0 after winning 5-4 on Monday. We'll see if the Panthers can come back and even up the series 1 game apiece. I do have the Panthers winning in 6 games for this second-round series. And then we got Game 1 of the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Like I said, first time that these 2 teams will square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Not even the original Winnipeg Jets, before they moved to Arizona, faced the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Even the Dallas Stars were the Minnesota North Stars. They didn't even square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs against the original Winnipeg Jets. And when the Jets were the Atlanta Thrashers before they moved back up to Winnipeg, they didn't even square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Dallas Stars. So this will be the first time that these 2 teams will square off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And of course, both these teams ended their Game 7s on a high note, and it was certainly thrilling Game 7s for the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, the Dallas Stars eliminating the Avalanche in 7 games with Mikko Rantanen having a 4-point night against his former team. 3 goals, 1 assist. He got the hat trick in the win. And, of course, the Jets eliminating the Blues in 7 games. Of course, down 3-1 in the final 2 minutes of the third period. And they scored 2 goals within those 2 minutes to tie the game up at 3. Cole Perfetti had the game-time goal in that Game 7 with 2 seconds left in the third period, which forced overtime, and then double overtime, just winning on the goal from Adam Lowry. And they eliminated the Blues in 7 games. So it'll be interesting to see how this first round series plays out. Most people have the Stars winning this series, and I can understand so with Jason Robinson and Miro Heiskanen coming back to the lineup. Of course, Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey and Logan Stanley is questionable. We don't know if they'll be coming back to this playoffs. But we got Robo and Heiskanen coming back for the Dallas Stars, so could possibly be the Dallas Stars winning this series. And of course, Connor Hellebuyck struggles, obviously being pulled on the road in all 3 games in St. Louis. We don't know if his playoff struggles will continue in the second round, or will he somehow prevail and the Jets end up winning this series. But for my prediction, if you missed my second round playoff predictions video on the TG Hockey channel, and if you missed Monday's episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast, I did say the Jets will win in 7 games, but that'll depend on if Mark Scheifele returns to the lineup, if Josh Morrissey comes back, if Logan Stanley comes back, and we'll have to see how Connor Hellebuyck will be in this second round series. But if that doesn't play out, and if Connor Hellebuyck continues to struggle and puts on a bad effort, then it's obviously Dallas Stars winning this series. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God first as always. Be blessed. I'll see you guys Friday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Like I said, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Yeah, take care.